All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's begin. So we are continuing Eretz Hashem tonight. First of all, we thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsor, the Tilson Mishpacha B'Eretz Yisrael, for dedicating all the Shiur and Drashos this year in the Zechus of Besoros Tovos Am Yisrael. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, that in Eretz Hashem we should be zocheh to see Besoros Tovos. All of our hostages should come home. In Eretz Hashem, our holy soldiers should be successful. B'chol ma'aseh yadehem, and we should be zocheh in Eretz Hashem that as we enter into Chodesh Nisan, B'Nisan Nigalu, U'B'Nisan Asidin Ligo, we should be zocheh in Eretz Hashem to a month filled with Geula, with Besoros Tovos, with brachos for all of Klal Yisrael. So we are continuing tonight in Eretz Hashem in Kapitel Kuf, which is the Kapitel of Mizmor L'Soda. So as Kidarkeinu B'Kodesh, hopefully we'll get through one pasuk in Eretz Hashem this evening, which explains the snail's pace through Sefer Tehillim. But okay, what's the rush? So if you remember again, last week we spoke about this idea of Mizmor L'Soda. David HaMelech outlines these two different models of gratitude. Almost like innate gratitude, episodic gratitude, different types of gratitude. So we're continuing in Eretz Hashem today. I want to focus on a very specific piece. In Pasuk Beis, David HaMelech says, Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha, bo lefanav birinana. Literally translated, serve Hashem with joy, come before Him with praise. So we're not even going to focus on the second phrase, we're just going to focus on the first. Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha. Perhaps one of the most well-known lines in all of Yiddishkeit, in all of Sefer Tehillim. Now, David HaMelech has a number of competing lines, which we're not going to focus on tonight. He also says, Ivdu as Hashem b'yira. Serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with fear or with reverence. We're going to leave that on the side. Tonight, our sole focus is to come to an understanding of one simple phrase. What does it mean to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu for b'simcha? And the truth is, we're going to divide up this question really into two parts. First of all, just in general, what does David HaMelech mean in this phrase? What does it mean to serve Hashem with joy? And then, of course, the more overarching question that we have to try to figure out for ourselves, which is perhaps the $1,000,000 question is, right, how? Good, I didn't think about that one. True also, how? And what is simcha? What is joy? Because the truth is, in general, if you don't, the mashal I like to give is a lot of times in life, we're busy, but we don't necessarily have direction. I'll give you a simple example of this. Imagine for a moment you decide to go on vacation, and so you pack up the car, you have everything that you need. You get in, you start the car, you start driving. And it's incredible, right? You've got clothing for all climates, clothing for all occasions. It's fantastic. There's only one problem, which is you don't have a destination. And a lot of times in life, we're just like that. Like, in other words, I've got a lot of stuff. I even have some really great ideas and great plans, but where am I going? What am I doing? And so when David HaMelech says, Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha, of course, it presupposes that we understand what the concept of simcha is. What is joy? What is happiness? And while there may not be one answer for everyone, there has to be a core definitional approach that we can take. So before we kind of zone or zoom into that, let's take a little bit more of a panoramic view. Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha. The Radak in number 2 says, very simple. Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha, what does it mean to serve Hashem with happiness? Shalotiya avodasa lemasa. When you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it should not feel like a burden. Ela b'simcha u'betuv leiv. You should serve Hashem with happiness. So again, it's interesting. The Radak understands over here that Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha really means don't serve Hashem like it's a burden. Now, by the way, we see this motif very often in Yiddishkeit. There's the concept of Yahavtas Hashem Elokecha. Hashem commands us to love Hashem. What's the problem with this mitzvah, to love Hashem? What's the problem? You can't legislate love, right? You could legislate behaviors. So you could tell someone, you have to keep Shabbos, you have to keep kashrus, you can't wear shatnez, you can't kill, right? You could go ahead and legislate all of these different behaviors. You can't legislate emotion. You can't, right? Just like about in human relationships. Can you command someone to love you? No. You could command someone to respect you, because that's behavioral. You could command someone to fear you, but you can't command someone to love you. Yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands us to love Him. So Rashi HaKadosh says, it's incredible. Rashi says, what does it mean, V'atas Hashem Lokecha? So Rashi HaKadosh comments, he says, Aseh Dvarav Me'ahava. Serve Hashem like you love Him. Now, what does that mean, serve Hashem like you love Him? What does that mean? I remember I once taught this concept many years ago in Ma'alot. It's not called Ma'alot anymore. What is it called now? Masora? Okay, whatever. What used to be, Malod Zichron Livracha, whatever it was, once upon a time. And I remember one of the girls in the class said she said, oh, so Rashi's saying, fake it till you make it. And I thought there was a lot of godless in that phrase. And that exactly is what Rashi's saying, is that sometimes I don't feel a certain way. So what do you do when you don't feel a certain way? So you go ahead and essentially, you pretend like you feel a certain way. You behave in a way that makes it look like you feel a certain way, even though you may not actually feel that way. And this is incredibly important because one of the most misunderstood concepts in Yiddishkeit is that somehow you arrive at a love of God, right? That one day I wake up in the morning and I'm in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm inspired. It's fantastic. It's incredible. And by the way, it's not just with God. People make this mistake in a lot of life relationships. People think that in marriage, right, somehow you meet someone, everything falls into place, you're madly in love, and the passion never ends, and everything is always wonderful, and everything is great, and it just comes so easily, and it's no problem. Marriage is a lot of faking, right? Don't quote me on that, right? Not my marriage. Right? Other people. Hey, in other words, so much of it is those moments where I do not feel it. But I've invested enough in this that I'm going to put forward the effort, and behaviorally, it's going to look like, there's nothing better in the world than this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I want you to love me, but I can't legislate love. So here's what I want you to do. When you serve me, make it look like you love me. When you serve me in a way that if someone observes you behaviorally, they say, wow, that guy really likes Yiddishkeit. That guy's really involved with Yiddishkeit. Now, they don't know what's happening in my heart. In my heart, I may be totally disconnected. In my heart, I may be totally uninspired. But, the path to inspiration is paved with days, weeks, months, and sometimes years of uninspired activity. People don't realize this. You see, we live in an age, I've mentioned this before, of everything is like YouTube shorts. It used to be you could watch a video and be inspired. No, now you can't. No one has the patience for a video. So instead what we like is shorts, right? You know what a YouTube short is? It has to be under a minute. So I'm ready to be inspired, but keep it under a minute. That's not how inspiration works. Inspiration is the result of day after day putting in and investing myself in whatever it is that I'm doing. And most of it is inglorious, most of it is uninspired. But if I keep at it, keep plugging away, the inspiration will be there. That is true in my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's true in marriage, that's true in almost every meaningful life relationship. You have to be willing to invest and be willing to show up and be willing to give and be willing to do, even when it's not fun, even when it's not exciting, even when it's not interesting, and even when you would rather be doing a million different other things. That's what v'ahavta Hashem Elokecha means. It doesn't mean to love Hashem. For some reason, Hashem can't command us to love Him. So what does Hashem tell us? Hashem says, do me a favor. Just keep showing up day after day. Do what you're supposed to be doing. And even when you don't feel it, pretend like you do. And keep plugging in, and something amazing happens. And those of us who work this program know exactly what Rashi means, because it works. There is no person that is inspired every single day. There is no person that feels it every single day. I've always been baffled. The opening line in Shulchan Aruch is Yisgaber Ka'ari. Person should get out of bed like a lion in the morning, right? To greet the day, So there's a lot of interesting things about that. First of all, if you've ever been to the zoo and you see a lion get up, right? A lion gets up very slowly, right? A lion gets up. So it doesn't mean, people misunderstand that the Shulchan Aruch is not telling us to jump out of bed. Most of us don't jump out of bed. Unless we're going on vacation, they ain't jump out of bed, right? But otherwise, you're not jumping out of bed. So what does it mean, get up like a lion? A lion knows that it has a role. A lion knows that it has a purpose. A lion knows who and what he is. Shulchan Aruch says, get up and recognize you have a purpose. It's not always inspiring. It's not always great. It's not always enjoyable. Get up and get to work. That's your job. Will the inspiration come? Of course it'll come. But probably not today. Probably not tomorrow. Sometime later on. What's the challenge in Yiddishkeit? That too many people drop off because they're too impatient for the inspiration. Well, one second. I've been davening for years and I'm not inspired, so forget it. Or I've been doing this for years and I'm not inspired. It's not the way it works. You got to keep doing, keep working, keep plugging away, and the inspiration comes. So the Radak says, what does it mean, Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha? It means don't approach your Yiddishkeit like a burden. That's it. Don't approach Yiddishkeit like a burden. Rather approach it with simcha. I think what the Radak is saying is, it's not as much about the joy and the happiness. It's much more about the first part. Don't treat your Yiddishkeit like a burden. That's what it means. And by definition, as long as your Yiddishkeit is not a burden, then by definition, you are fulfilling Ivduas Hashem b'simcha. The Alshich says something beautiful. The Alshich says in number 3, Ivduas Hashem b'simcha tamid kimotzei shalal rav. You should approach your Yiddishkeit as if you have found a great treasure. Such a beautiful, beautiful imagery, right? Person goes ahead. Sometimes you're walking on the street, you find money, and the halacha is, right, generally you find money and you're allowed to keep it. That's the halacha. By Metzias, money doesn't have a siman, so you're walking on the street, you find money, you're allowed to keep it. It's such a good feeling, right? You stumbled upon treasure like I wasn't expecting this. Incredible. The Alshich says, treat Yiddishkeit like a treasure. Tamid kimotzei shalal rav. If you look at Yiddishkeit, instead of a series of responsibilities, obligations, but instead, wow, this is the most incredible, beautiful, and ridiculous spiritual treasure that has been given to me. And if you treat it like a treasure, that opens up a feeling of profound simcha. One of the most important yisodos in Yiddishkeit. Yes, does Judaism expect a lot from us? It does. There are many responsibilities, and Yiddishkeit governs every single part of our lives, right? There's no part of our life that is not regulated by Judaism, and that could be absolutely overwhelming. But when you recognize that I have the schus to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in anything and everything I do, literally, and if you think about this, right, in Yiddishkeit, everything you do, right, from how we conduct business, to how we conduct our intimate lives, to how we conduct our business lives, to what we do when we come out of the bathroom, right? Every single part of our lives is regulated by the Ribono Shel Olam. Why? Because he's trying to show us there's meaning in everything. There's meaning in every single thing. And when you recognize that wow, every single thing that I do could be spiritually impactful and holy, I hit the jackpot. So what does Ivduas Hashem b'simcha mean? Treat your Yiddishkeit not like a series of restrictions, expectations, and things you have to do, but rather go ahead and treat it like discovered treasure. If you can imagine, if you found a chest of gold coins, right, and someone told you, what, you found it on 7 Mile Lane, and you have to take it home. No one's going to help you. You have to take it home yourself. No one is ever going to say, oh, God, I have to schlep all of this gold myself, right? Really? I'm so tired, right? I did this last week, right? Why do I have to schlep all the gold? Why can't someone schlep all the gold? You think, does God really care if I schlep all the gold? All the things we love to say to exempt ourselves from our religious responsibilities. No one would say, why? Because it's gold. Because it's treasure. And I would be all too happy to make as many trips necessary between the treasure chest and my home, says the Alshich. If we only recognize that every single day, there's a beautiful spiritual treasure chest that is waiting for us, that is just filled with ridiculous and enormous spiritual opportunity, that it wouldn't be burdensome. And instead, again, we'd feel a tremendous sense of elation in everything we do. The Malbim, in number 4. A beautiful Malbim. The Malbim says, Ivduas Hashem. So this is actually a very beautiful idea. And again, as we always point out in the Shiur, these ideas are not mutually exclusive. They all work beautifully in concert together. So the Malbim says something, he says, Yesh Hevdel, Ben avodas Hashem, ben avodah l'basar v'dam. This is a very profound piece. There is a simple distinction between service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and service of our fellow man. Difference, right? When you're working for God versus you're working for a person. How so? Ki ha'ovid l'basar v'dam lo yismach ba'avodaso mitzad she'lo batuach she'ikabel haschar. Right? It's interesting. When you work for someone, why are you working for that person? Person has a job. Why are you working? Right? Because you want money. This is very important, right? Most of us, no matter how much we enjoy our careers, no matter how meaningful it may be, right? If your employer were to come and say to you, you know what, I really see you're getting a lot out of your job. You're doing a fantastic job. We love you. We appreciate you're fantastic. Just one little wrinkle, we can't pay you anymore, right? I guarantee you all of us would say, you know what, yes, there is so much meaning in my work. If you're not paying me, I'll see you later. Right? I'll see how that's just the way that it works. Why? Because when you work for another human being, the work itself is meaningful, but it's really the result of the work that's meaningful. In other words, at the end of the day, what I do may be meaningful, but what I'm doing is I need to make money. I have to make money because I have to live and I have to pay bills and I want to enjoy life, and you need money in order to be able to do that. So whereas there's value in the work, the real avoda is for the result. And a lot of times, if I'm not 100% sure of the result, right? So we've all been in situations like this where you put in effort for something, you're not exactly sure, is it going to yield fruit or not? So sometimes then the toil is not as enjoyable when you're not guaranteed of the result. On the other hand, he says, that's why whenever you do something for another person, if you're doing it for a particular purpose, if you're not sure if that purpose is going to materialize, the work itself may or may not be as enjoyable. However, lo kin avodas Hashem, she atzma haschar v'hatachlis avoda zutia b'simcha. And this is incredible. Why do we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why do we serve Hashem? What's the answer? Why do we serve Hashem? This is an important question to be able to answer, by the way. It's not right. Why do we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We're told to, a sense of duty, a sense of purpose. It's a treasure. One thing is for sure, why don't we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I should say, I'm sorry? For money, for reward, right? The truth is, it would be highly illogical to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu for reward for one simple reason, which is, we don't know how reward works. Is there reward in this world? Not reward in this world, the world to come. Olam haba yemos HaMashiach. How does it all work? I don't know. It works. I believe that there is a reward for everything, but how, what, when, where, I have no idea. The Malbim says something so beautiful. When you work for a person, ultimately, again, the essence of the work is the result. What are you going to get at the end of the job? When it comes to the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the reward is the work itself, the avoda itself, the ability to go ahead and have connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. That is the reward. What comes from it? I have no idea, but that's not why I'm in it. I'm not in it for what comes from it. I'm in it just to be in it. I'm in it because the relationship is beautiful and meaningful. And by the way, you could relate to this in different ways. It's hard to find a human relationship that is like this, right? Because if you think about it, and this is an interesting thing to contemplate. You might not agree at first, but then you'll think about it, and I guarantee you'll agree. Maybe not now, but later. There's no human relationship that we are engaged in that we don't do for something to get out of it, right? In a marriage, okay, so everybody, right? The shower brachas v'ar tahav means to give, and it's all about giving, and blah, 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 right? Great, right? Especially when it comes from someone who's been married for 4 minutes, right? And has all the marital wisdom in the world. Yes, of course it's about giving, but it's also about getting. If you have a one-sided marriage where one person is giving and the other person is never giving, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm not in it to get, but if I don't get something, it's not going to work. So you'll say, children. Children is a selfless relationship. No, it's not. Because remember, again, children do something very important for our ego. Rav Sham Shlomo Hirsch brings down, he says, if there's one thing that we want more than anything, it is immortality. I want to live forever. But given that I can't live forever, the next best thing, children. Because children ensure that there's a piece of me that will continue on even after I am no longer here. So you see something amazing, even with our children. It's not selfless. It's not. I'm getting something out of this. There is an extra lifespan. There's a little shtick immortality that I am getting from my children. So in the world of human relationships, there's not really a concept of just being in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship. I'm always getting something, giving something. There's one exception to this rule, and that's with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The highest level of relationship with Hashem is one where I'm in the relationship just for the sake of being in the relationship. That's it. And this is so incredibly important because otherwise you end up with such theological difficulties. How many of us have davened for things in life that we did not get? Right? But remember, that presupposes that because you daven for something, you're supposed to get it. Well, who says? And who says that the point of tefillah is just to ask God for your laundry list of things? That's definitely part of it because it demonstrates a reliance. But the greatest part of tefillah is just the dialogue. The greatest part of tefillah is, Rebbe, I want to talk to you. I want a relationship with you. Because anyone who has ever tasted a pure relationship with Hashem knows that it is beautiful, it is magnificent, it is life-affirming, it is cathartic, even if you don't get anything back from God. The relationship itself is what means more than anything. The extra parnasa would be great. The refuah would be wonderful. The shalom bayis would be good. The shidduch, the this, all the things that I ask for, which are all important, all incredible. They're all beautiful, all important, all wonderful. But at the end of the day, what's most important is the relationship itself. Because if I have that relationship, this is what David HaMelech says elsewhere in Tehillim. David HaMelech says, Achas sha'alti me'es Hashem, David Hashem Ori, Kapit Lamed Aleph. Hashem asked one thing from you. What's the one thing that David HaMelech asked from Hashem? One thing? Shifti beveis Hashem k'mei chayai. I just want to dwell in your house. And the Malbim asks on that, David, that's all? That's all you need? You don't need anything else? You don't need parnasa, shalom bayis, all the different things that we daven for? You don't need any of that stuff? Of course he needed it. But he also realized that when you have relationship, you have everything. If you have shifti beveis Hashem, if you're tight with God, you may not have every single thing you want from life, but you absolutely have all of the tools you need to be successful. That's the way it works. And says the Malbim something amazing. We make a mistake in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that it's about getting stuff. It's about getting stuff. It's not about getting stuff. See, that's in human relationships. In human relationships, I do because I want to get something. I go to work because I want to get a paycheck. Work might be meaningful also, but I want to get paid. I engage in relationships, even in beautiful relationships, because hopefully I'm going to get something from those relationships. That's human relationships like that. When it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not the result that drives me. It's the avodah. It's the process. It's the relationship. It's the service. Even if not one tefillah is answered, I still feel so incredible because I have that relationship. Says the Malbim, that's what it means. Ivdu as Hashem besimcha. Serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not because you're asking for stuff or because you need stuff, which of course we all do and we all want, but recognize the profundity and the power in the service, in the avodah itself. And if you could find that, then you could find tremendous simcha in life. Tremendous simcha. You know, I often feel that this is one of the things that you could, there are many differences between like Eretz Yisrael Jews and diaspora Jews. But one of the things that seems to be like in the DNA of Eretz Yisrael Jews is this concept. This idea that like, it's not about if God gives you what you want or you don't want. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you, go with it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about getting what you want. It's about establishing a relationship. And if you have that relationship, then truly, you have simcha. So you see again, all these different approaches. So again, the Radak, don't let your Yiddishkeit be a burden. The Al-Shich, let it be like you discover treasure. The Malbim, recognize the profundity, the power, and the greatness in the service. Don't focus on the results. Focus on the act of connection itself, and that'll bring you simcha. The Maggid of Mezrich says something beautiful in number 5. He says, Raki kaim ivdu as Hashem b'simcha, ki ha'atzvus kim'at ka'avodah zara. So this is incredible. The Maggid says like this, what does it mean, ivdu as Hashem b'simcha? It means serve Hashem with happiness. Because what's the alternative? What's the alternative to happiness? What's the alternative to happiness? Sadness. In Chassidus, there's an understanding. Rabbi Nachman writes about this extensively. Rabbi Nachman says that people think that like the greatest tool of the Yetzer Hara is chet, right? The Yetzer Hara is there. He's trying to get me to sin because if I sin, I self-sabotage, all these things. Rabbi Nachman says it's not true. The greatest tool of the Yetzer Hara is atzvus, is sadness. Because sadness creates yeosh, despair, and despair creates hopelessness. And the moment that a person gives up on themselves, pretty much you're going to end up doing anything and everything. So the Maggid says something amazing. He says, if das Hashem b'simcha means, because what's the alternative? What's the alternative? To be sad? To be ba'atzvus? To walk around upset about everything? To walk around because life didn't go my way, because things didn't materialize the way that I wanted? Okay, we all have experienced letdown. It's only just the degree of the letdown and disappointment and disillusionment you have in life. So you have a choice. You have a choice. If das Hashem b'simcha, or if das Hashem ba'atzvus. That's the choice. So the Maggid says, David HaMelech is saying, choose happiness. Now, by the way, this is also a profound idea, because what is the Maggid saying? One of the ideas that we know to be true, but we hate it, right? Which idea is this? Happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice. We like to think that happiness is the result of, and you fill in the blank. Happiness is the result of more money. Happiness is the result of longer vacations. Happiness is the result of nachas for my children, a shidduch, this, that, whatever. You fill in the blank. I'll be happy when. Klal Gadol in life is when people say, I'll be happy when, they are never happy. Because there's always something else to acquire. There's always something else to buy. There's always something else to experience. Happiness is a choice you make. Do you want to be happy? Or you don't want to? How could I be happy? Look at all the stuff in my life that's in a state of disrepair. Shtickle newsflash. There's always going to be stuff in a state of disrepair. You are always going to be a dysfunctional person. It is only a shayla of what level of dysfunction you're living with. We're all dysfunctional people. We all have dysfunctional parts of our lives. It's just a question of how acute it is. So you wake up in the morning, you have to decide, do you want to be b'simcha or you don't want to be b'simcha? I see. It's not that simple. It is that simple. It absolutely is that simple. Happiness is a choice. It's not me saying that. That's the Maggid of Mezrich. If that's Hashem b'simcha, make a choice. Make a choice. You're Jewish, so you have to do mitzvahs. We're bound by halacha. Whether we like it or don't like it, it's ours. It's ours. We have to do it. So you have a choice. You can be happy or you can be braggis. You can be happy or you can be sad. And by the way, this is true in everything in life. There is no shortage of things to complain about. And some of them are actually legitimate complaints. Some of them are valid complaints. So great, you could go complain. You know what happens to complainers, by the way? You know what happens to complainers? All of us know complainers, right? And what happens? Generally, they tend to be peripheralized, marginalized, and people try to avoid eye contact with them, right? Because I don't want to get drawn into this. I don't want to get sucked into this. I just don't want to. So when you choose unhappiness, not only are you choosing a dark lens through which to see the world, but you're also cutting yourself off from so much potential happiness through relationships in this world as well. So the Maggid says, Ivdu Hashem b'simcha means choose happiness. Make the choice to be happy. Now, what we have to try to do now a little bit deeper is try to understand, so what is this yesod of happiness? Okay, so now I got it, right? I don't want my Yiddishkeit to be like a burden, right? I want to feel like every day my Yiddishkeit is like a discovered treasure. I want to go ahead and I want to feel the beauty and the happiness in the service of God, not just the results. And I want to be the kind of person who chooses happiness. I'll take it all. How do I do this? So if you look, by the way, at number 5, it's actually a very beautiful Perush on Tehillim called Mina Be'er. So he tells a story over here. Pam Bikesh Harav HaKadosh Rabbi Chil Michal Mizalachav Me'arav HaKadosh Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Mizidichav Sheochich Ma'at Es Bino Harav HaKadosh Rabbi Zev Mizabriz Zuchus Yigalina Ba'avor Shechas Shalom Mimidas HaSimcha. So this is what happened. So the Maggid of Zalachav once went over to the Rebbe Zidichav and he said, Rebbe, I have a problem. What's my problem? My son, meaning the Zalachav Maggid was saying, my son, he's not besimcha. He's just not besimcha. He's just not happy. He's not happy. So can you help me out with him? Okay. So the Zidichav Rebbe said, okay, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to talk with your son. Before he started talking with the son, he said something amazing. He said, so listen what the Zidichav Rebbe did. He put the comma in a different place. You see, reread it, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with simcha. The Rebbe said something like this. He said, really, it's Ivdu es Hashem. The avodah in life is you have to serve Hashem. That's my avodah, to be an Oved Hashem. But what path should I choose to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with? B'simcha. Simcha is a form of avodas Hashem. Simcha is like an avenue of avodas, and there are different avenues. So it's not just serve Hashem with happiness; it's serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what is the best way to reach a level of avodas Hashem? And the answer is simcha. So there's a science called simcha. There's a science called simcha, and if you could unravel it, if you could unwrap it, if you could attain it, then somehow your life becomes fundamentally different. Isn't this the most elusive thing in the world? Aren't we all searching for the same thing? For happiness, right? We're just looking to be happy. We're looking to be happy because, something very interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rebbe Shalom, it's very important to understand this. Rebbe Shalom created us with a void. Right? Do you ever walk around life and you just feel like an emptiness inside of you? There's not something wrong with you. If you feel that, that's by design. Rebbe Shalom created us with a void. And our entire avoda in this world is to fill the void. What's the challenge? That often we try to fill the void with all the wrong things. And I think this is going to make me happy. This is going to make me happy. This is going to make me complete. And then I fill up with this, I fill up with that. And there's like a little bit, there's enjoyment, but I still feel that aching void. I still feel that emptiness. Simcha is the process through which you fill your void in a meaningful way. So how do I do that? How do I achieve a level of simcha, right? Because everything we saw in sources 2, 3, 4, 5 are all descriptive about simcha, but how do I actually unlock simcha in my life? So I'll share with you two approaches. Take a look at number 7. This is a beautiful Gemara Maseches Taanis. The Gemara says, Rabbi Baroka Choza Havashchiach B'Shuka Debei Lef. A famous Gemara. Rabbi Baroka used to spend time in the shuk, in the marketplace in Bei Lefet. That's the name of a place. What happened? Havashchiach Eliyahu Gabei. It's incredible. Who would Rabbi Baroka hang out with in the shuk? Who would they hang out with in the shuk? Eliyahu Hanavi. I can't imagine what that's like, right? But again, Eliyahu Hanavi and Rabbi Baroka hanging out in the shuk. Okay, Amalei. Ika Bahadi Shuka Bar Almadasi. So Rabbi Baroka once asked Eliyahu, he's standing in the shuk, and of course in the shuk, right? If you see all kinds of people. So Rabbi Baroka turns to Eliyahu and says, Eliyahu, is there anyone here in the marketplace who is going to the world to come? Well, there's a portion of the world to come. Okay, so initially Eliyahu Navi said no, which is incredible. I don't see anyone here who has a portion of the world to come. Second line, number 7. Adahachi v'hachi asu hanach trei asi. A little while later, 2 guys came to the shuk. Amalei, hanach nami b'nei alma da'asi ninu. Eliyahu says, Rabbi Baroka, those 2 guys who just came into the shuk, they are b'nei olam haba. They are a portion of the world to come. Incredible. Azul Gavayim, so Rabbi Baroka runs over to these 2 guys. He's got to meet them. Like, who are you guys? Then Eliyahu Navi says that you're a portion of the world to come. Amalei, Amalei, mai uvdaichu. So what do you guys do? What do you guys do? Right? In other words, who are you? Tell me what you do. Listen to this. Amrulay, they said to him, Inshi baduche anan. Now, Inshi baduchi, Rashi says over here, Smechim or misamchim b'nei adam. We're just happy people, and we make other people happy as well. Whatever. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know exactly what they did, right? But Lamaisa, they say, what do we do? What do we do? We make people happy. We find sad people, we find dejected people, and we find a way to lift their spirits. So we are happy people ourselves, and we go ahead and we make sad people happy. Inami, furthermore, when we see 2 people fighting, we make peace between them. So these are the 2 guys of a time marketplace of people, 2 people who have a portion of the world to come. These 2 guys who make people laugh and who make shalom between quarreling parties. Turn the page to source number 9. So in the Be'er Parsha, he writes as follows. He says something so beautiful. He says, so he asks in the name of Rabbi Akiva Eger. Rabbi Akiva Eger says, in the last parak of Maseches Sanhedrin, we didn't not long ago in Daf Yomi, the Mishnah, first Mishnah and 10th parak of Maseches Sanhedrin says, Kol Yisrael yesh lem chelek liolam haba. Every Jew has a portion of the world to come. So Rabbi Akiva Eger asks, so what's going on in this Gemara? Rabbi Baroka asks Eliyahu Navi, who here has a portion in the world to come? Every Jew has a portion in the world to come. So what exactly is it that Rabbi Baroka is asking Eliyahu Hanavi? And Rabbi Akiva Eger says something amazing. Look in source number 9, right-hand paragraph, second to last line. So listen to this. So generally, you're right, everybody has Olam Haba. When do you go to Olam Haba? When do you go to Olam Haba? You die. Then all of us have Averos that we need to be matakin for. So whatever that tikkun process, whatever that purification process is, and then we go to Olam Haba. That's how it works. Yeah, every single Jew has a portion of the world to come. Shaila just is like, what do you need to go through before you get there? It's true. What is the Gemara saying? But there are certain people who get to enjoy Olam Haba not just after they die, but their olam haza, this world, becomes olam haba as well. This world could become an olam haba experience as well. That's what Rabbi Baruch was asking Eliyahu Hanavi. I know every Jew has a portion of the world to come. Baruch Hashem, every Jew is holy, every Jew is great, every Jew has something beautiful waiting for him in the afterlife. Rabbi Baruch was asking a different question. Is there anyone who is able to achieve the sublime levels of olam haba, the world to come, while still in olam haza, in this world? Is there anyone who's able to reach that level of like sublime kite, that level of serenity? To which Eliyahu responds, to which he responded, he says, "Ach zeh hu ben olam haba kamo shu chai, ki zeh gadol scharo shel hamesameach acherim." So what do you see from the Gemara? When you spend your life trying to make other people happy, something amazing happens, which is that your olam haza becomes like olam haba. What Rabbi Kiva, what the Gemara is teaching us is, do you want to know how to achieve simcha? The first way to achieve simcha, don't make it about you. You know, the biggest challenge, the biggest mistake we make when it comes to finding happiness, it's all about, how do I become happy? That's the wrong question, says Rabbi Kiva. That's not it. True simcha never comes from what you do for yourself. True simcha comes from what you are able to do for the other. And if you are able to bring joy to someone else's life, if you are able to make someone else's difficult circumstance a little less difficult, if you're able to help someone resolve machlokes, you're able to help someone to see past their pain, you're able to help someone negotiate the difficult circumstance in life, you're able to bring simcha to someone else, then your own personal simcha skyrockets. And we know this. We know this from our own lives. So that sometimes, right, the feeling you get when you help someone else is 10 times greater than whenever you're just doing something for yourself. That feeling of almost elation, that feeling of tranquility, that feeling of just sublime simcha when you're there for the other. So what Rabbi Kiva is saying, what the Gemara is talking about over here, is that you want simcha in life. Simcha in life means taking the focus off me and putting it onto someone else. Now again, it doesn't mean ignoring myself, it doesn't mean neglecting myself, but what it means is, simcha doesn't come about from the process of figuring out what makes me happy, but rather simcha comes about when you figure out, what could I do to increase the happiness of the other? I'll share with you something interesting. In Berachas HaShachar, if you notice, we go ahead and we see all of the brachas in the plural, right? Hashem gives sight to the blind. Matir asurim, right? He releases those who are bound. So kif kifufim, he straightens up those who are crooked. There's only one bracha that we say in the singular. It's the bracha of Sha'asali kol tsarki. Thank you, Hashem, for giving me all that I need. It's like, what's the pshat with that? Why shouldn't it be Sha'asa lanu kol tsarkenu? You've given us all the way. In the Bashat HaKadosh says something beautiful. He says, when it comes to your life, the way you should look at your own life is, Hashem, I have everything I need. It doesn't mean I don't want more. Of course I want more. But thank you. The way I start is, I have everything I need. That's for me. But when it comes to the other, I know that you're missing something. And what could I do to help make you complete? That's the way the Jew starts the day. Me, I'm good. I feel like, honestly, even if I don't really feel like I have all I need, I know deep down I have all that I need to become the best version of me. I'd like some more, like a lot more, but I have what I need. But it's singular. Because when I look at you, I have one question. What can I do to help? What can I do to be there? What can I do to provide for you in your, what is it that you're missing that perhaps I could contribute? That's why it's phrased in the singular. So the first method, the first avenue to achieving simcha is shift the focus from the self to the other. It's not about making myself happy. It's about what could I do to bring happiness to the other. And something amazing happens. When you bring simcha to other people, something incredible occurs, which is suddenly your personal happiness level skyrockets as well. But what's changed in your life, right? You still have all the same problems, all the same deficiencies, all the same difficulties. You're right. But there's just that knowledge, that notion that I've made a difference in someone's life, I have made a difference in the world, that changes my happiness quotient in a dramatic way. That's number one. Number two, If you look at number 10, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says something beautiful. Again, this is a much longer piece. I put it on the sheet, and you can look at it on your own. But I'm just quoting to you from one little piece. If you look on the right-hand column, the second to last paragraph, that begins, Dihine yeshnam nisim hayotzim migeder hateva v'aregilos. There are miracles. There are different kinds of miracles. There are supernatural miracles. Miracles that are departure from the norm. Kemo anes de kriyas yamsuf. So what's incredible is those supernatural miracles. It is so clear that Hashem is in the world, Hashem is operating in the world, and Hashem is running things. And when I see those miracles, I'm drawn to a tremendous love of Hashem. Now, generally we know from miracles, right? Miracles don't really work for long periods of time, right? Miracles, they kind of give you like a booster shot of inspiration. So I'm inspired for a few moments, and then it's like fireworks, right? It's wonderful, and then again, you move on with life. So, but nevertheless, in supernatural miracles, at the end of the day, I see it, and there is an enhanced connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But look at last line on the right-hand paragraph. There's another type of miracles. Left-hand paragraph. There's another type of miracle, which is a prolonged miracle. A miracle that goes on for a prolonged amount of time. So what's interesting is it's the kind of miracle that starts. And when it first starts, you're overwhelmed by the miraculous nature of it. But because it extends for a prolonged amount of time, it transitions from being a miracle to being natural. And over time, it just becomes something that either I take for granted or I just expect, and it loses its miraculous luster. I'm not really like impressed or overwhelmed by it anymore. The hergel na'aset teva. Those things that we become accustomed to often just become like second nature. Shalachin nisim elu einon meviim liyira. Upualas nisim elu shem chazdi amakom hilahavi lekiro v'dvekes. So the Rebbe goes on, the Bat Rebbe goes on, he says something so beautiful. He says, our entire avoda in life is to be able to see the miracle in the natural events all around us. In fact, we say this every single day in Modim, right? What do we say? Modim anach. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And one of the things we thank Him for is Al Nisecha Shebechol Yom Imanu. Thank you, Hashem, for all of the miracles that you do for us every single day. What miracles? I don't know. What miracles happened to you today? It was just a regular day. You're right, but in any regular day, how many countless miracles are there? And Lubavitcher Rebbe goes on, he says something absolutely amazing. That the way to cultivate a sense of life, Simcha, is when you are able to appreciate the beautiful miracles that happen all around you. There are so many things that happen day in and day out that are so amazing, that are so great. And you're right, those great and amazing things don't necessarily help to fix all the things that are broken and in disrepair in my life. It's true, but they're still there. They're beautiful. On any given day, there is no shortage of ridiculous and amazing and beautiful miracles. But they happen so often with such regularity that we just end up taking them for granted. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, if you want to come to a sense of simcha, then look and observe at the beautiful, miraculous activity around you every single day. And we all know this. If we take a step back, and we look at what occurs around us every day, there's no shortage of just tremendous miracles. Whether it's the fact that a person has control over their body, whether it's the fact that Baruch Hashem, a person has hopefully an intact family, person has some amount of parnasa, whatever it is, we always want more, and that's okay to want more. But we can't let the quest to want more kind of take over or blind us to the beautiful miracles around us. You know, it's human nature, and Chashon Baruch Hu programmed us this way, that for whatever the reason, our attention is always pulled to the things that we lack, right? If you ask any person generally, tell me, what's wrong in your life? What's wrong in your life, right? So I think most of us could generally rattle off the stuff that is wrong in life. How do you want it? You want it chronological, alphabetical, right? Worst to least to worst. How do you want it? You know, you want it by decade, you want it by year, you want it by... I can give you the whole thing. Somebody asks you, what are your brachas? See, okay, like my family, you know, we kind of like, but like, think about it. Just think about it. Whether you have a gratitude journal or whether you just go ahead and keep a note on your phone, but think about like the brachos we have each and every day. The brachos we have each and every day. That just because they occur day in and day out doesn't make them any less miraculous. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says that's what cultivates a sense of simcha. There's a beautiful, one of my favorite poems. When I was little, my mother was very into poetry. So we had a lot of poetry at home. So I always had a special place for poetry. So it's a beautiful beautiful poem in number 11 called Everyday Miracles. Miracles happen every day to many a folk in many a way. They're not hidden beneath a tree, but manifested for all to see. A mother giving sacred birth, a flower shoots up from the earth. A wanderer finds his way, a survivor sees another day. A beggar gets his next meal, a patience that's completely healed. The ocean with its shades of blue, a sky with a many hue. Everywhere and every day, miracles happen in every way. You don't have to travel far. Just look around, and there they are. So simple, but so beautiful. Just the difference is we're so often focused on the stuff we're unhappy with, which is legitimate, that we totally blind to the beautiful brachas. And if you don't see your brachas, then the truth is all you're walking around with is the stuff that's broken. And if you're constantly obsessing and focusing on what's broken, how this one wronged you, how this is not right, okay, so what happens? You become a bitter, angry person. Conversely, if I acknowledge the things that are broken and try my best to fix them, but really make a conscious choice to focus on the things that are working so beautifully, that's as the Lubavitcher Rebbe creates a true sense of simcha. So if we bring this all together, let's bring them in 2 minutes we have left. If we bring this all together, so David HaMelech told us one simple phrase: Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Sounds so simple. Serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with simcha. So what does it mean, and how do we do it? So if we work backwards, really what it comes down to is the first step. Let's work backwards. The first step is, how do I become a simchadik person? That's the first order of business. How do I achieve happiness in life? Now, by the way, I just want to point out, for the sake of full disclosure, there are many answers to this question. I'm just sharing with you 2 approaches, but there's certainly many more. But for our purpose tonight, how do you become a happy person? Number 1, focus on yourself a little less and focus on the other a lot more. Stop worrying about what you need to do for you and think about, what could I do to go ahead and bring happiness to the other? Because after all, we all start the day the same way. Shasali called Sarki. At the end of the day, maybe you want a bigger house, a bigger car, a bigger bank account, a bigger vacation. Got it. Hatzlacha. Everybody should have whatever they want. You don't need it. You don't need it. Or at least you certainly don't need it in order to be successful. You could want it, and you should have it, and you should enjoy it, but you absolutely don't need it. Because everything you need to be successful, you already have. But you know who's missing something? The person to your right and the person to your left. So what are you going to do for them? And the moment I focus on myself a little less, focus on the other a little bit more, and figure out what could I do to bring simcha to your life, then something amazing happens. Suddenly, my olam hazeh becomes like olam haba. And the moment you're able to make your life in this world like the life in the world to come, suddenly a wave, a tidal wave, a tsunami of simcha washes over you. Number 1. Number two, by stopping, right, as if was the phrase, stop to smell the roses, by just stopping for a moment to take stock of the beautiful brachos I have. And maybe it's a little bit corny, right? And maybe it's a little bit, I'll tell you, I was saying stop to smell the roses. So I happened to go to a florist on Erev Shabbos that I like. It's a little bit of a drive out. Remember there used to be Rimandi's like by Milk and Honey. Right? So they closed. They opened up on Red Run Boulevard. It's like 15 minutes away, but it's a beautiful store. They're very nice there. And the truth is, it's like my happy place. It's like it's so interesting. First of all, because no one I know is there. So I go in and like it's just me. It's just me, and it's great. They're like, "Hi, Mr. Samuel," because they see my credit card. And the truth is, like, you realize it, and it's beautiful, and it smells beautiful, and it's beautiful. And I don't know, they have chirping noises in the back. I don't know what it's from, but whatever it is, and it's like, life is good. Life is good. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's broken. But there's so much beauty, and there's so much goodness, and there's so much bracha. And the moment you stop to smell the roses, and you really just take stock of what you have in life, you will find real simcha. You could be the kind of person who is always focused on what's broken and what's wrong and how everyone and their brother has wronged you. You could be that person if you want to. And you'll be grumpy, and you'll be brightest, and most probably you'll be alone. Right? Or you could just choose to see the beautiful brachas, the beautiful blessings. And if you make that choice, then suddenly, again, the world is so bright, the world is so beautiful, and there's so much simcha. So the first step in this equation, says David HaMelech, is you have to go ahead and become besimcha. See, either again, by going and bringing simcha to others, and or seeing the beautiful things in this world. Now, once I am a simchadik person, now I know how to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu besimcha. So once I've inculcated the midah of simcha in myself, so now I am a simchadik yid. That brother, how many of us could actually say that? I am a simchadik. I am a happy person. I am a simcha person. That's me. Once I could say that, then everything else falls into place. Then suddenly when I serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not a burden, like the Radak. Then suddenly again when I serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's like I found the treasure, like the Alshich. And then when I serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's like the Malbim, that there is beauty and there is greatness just in the work, just in the service, before I even get anything else. And then most of all, I realize that each and every day, like the Maggid of Mezrich says, I have a choice to make. What kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to be a Ivdu as Hashem besimcha person, or do I want to be a brightest person? Do I want to be the kind of person who comes and lives a life that is so filled with all the beauty that we've described? Or do I just want to be upset, disenchanted, disillusioned because I feel wronged, I feel upset, or I'm just generally negative because all the things that haven't gone right? And by the way, not at all minimizing the things that don't go right, because a lot of things in life don't go right. And a lot of things in life are really broken. And a lot of things in life are really difficult. But it's a choice. It's a choice by what I allow to define me. So if we take the first step of becoming simchadik people, like again, by helping others, by making a choice to see the good, then we could fulfill the words of David HaMelech and have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that feels beautiful, that feels wonderful, that is not a burden, that feels like a treasure, that is meaningful, not because I'm getting something out of it, but simply because I have the privilege to engage. But all of it boils down to whether or not we are courageous enough to make the choice to be happy. That's what it comes down to. To incredible siyata d'shmaya, to incredible chachma, bina, and das, to choose wisely. And just know that if we summon up the courage to choose simcha, then life instantaneously becomes better, beautiful, and holier. We should all be zocha. All right, we'll stop over here for tonight. Next week in Meretz Hashem is our final shiur before Pesach, our pre-Pesach shiur. It's going to be about Pesach. I don't know about what yet, but it's something about Pesach in Meretz Hashem. Next week, next Tuesday at 8 o'clock, and then Meretz will be on break after that. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.